In this video, I'm comparing the OD-3 with the OD-1x. Now I'll cut right to it. If you're after a classic vintage style overdrive sound, I'm probably going to recommend the OD-3. But if you want a more modern sounding overdrive with a deeper low end and a bit of extra bite to it, I'm more likely to recommend the OD-1x. See if you can hear how the deep lows and the bright clear highs on the OD-1x, I think really work well for thrashy power chord riffs. Of a 60s, 70s overdrive sound, I think the OD-3 does that really well. Riffs have this kind of retro sound to them, and they don't have this high-end distorted bite that the OD-1x can set all the way down. I like to think of the cleaner, slightly more scooped sound of the OD-1x as being similar to like a Fender clean amp sound, while the dirtier, more focused sound of the OD-3 reminds me more of like a vintage British amp sound, sort of like an old Marshall or something. Now for some sounds with the drive settings higher up, but remember, if you're finding this video useful, think about maybe liking the video, maybe subscribing to the channel if you want to see more videos like this exploring pedals. So with the drive settings higher up, for me the OD-1x sounds quite compressed in the high end, but it's just got a nice smooth clear controlled sound, while the OD-3 it's not less bright, it just has its high end resonant frequency kind of lower down frequency wise. For me it sounds sort of throatier, and because it's less compressed than the OD-1x, it sounds kind of more dynamic and a little less controlled. Drive all the way up, the OD-1x has more gain available and it has more of a mid scoop, so it lends itself to styles where you might want higher gain. So styles where you might use like pinch harmonics or a lot of palm muting, stuff like that, the OD-1x can kind of handle, where the OD-3 for me doesn't really want to do that as much. It's more of a blues machine for me. Describing the differences between these two pedals as mainly in the EQ, and you might be thinking, well, why don't you just change the EQ using the tone controls on the pedals? And the reason I haven't done that is because I'm normally talking about very notched frequencies when I'm hearing the characteristics of the pedals. It's very narrow frequencies that I'm talking about. And the tone controls on the pedals tend to adjust a broad range of frequencies. So they're very good at tuning the pedal for use with a different amp or a different guitar, but they're not so good at, say, changing the pedal into sounding something that it isn't, if that makes any sense. You would need like a multi-band EQ or something if you wanted to do that. The tone controls on the pedals work really well just for fine tuning with a different amp or a different guitar, in my opinion. Both pedals work fine into an already overdriven amp, but because of the fairly wide frequency response that these pedals have, they both have quite a lot of bass, quite a lot of treble. What I find with certain setups is that the low notes can sound sometimes a little bit muddy, and high notes can sometimes sound a little bit harsh. So again, it's only with certain setups, but generally these days I prefer, when plugging into an already overdriven amp, something more mid-focused like an SD1 or a tube screamer, and that just focuses the sound and helps you stand out in the mix a little bit better. To decide which of these two pedals might be right for you, but to put it simply, I see the OD-3 as the classic vintage style overdrive sound with its kind of throaty focus sound, as opposed to the OD-1x, which is just more modern sounding with its deeper bass and more cutting high end. It's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer, and you can use these for whatever style you want. Just be aware of how they might colour your sound in different ways. I've put some links in the description to the best prices I can find online for these pedals. Those are affiliate links, so it does help the channel a little bit if you use those links. If you want to see more videos like this, exploring pedals in different ways, think about maybe subscribing to the channel, and thanks for watching.